They have built their entire season to start on January 1st.
I think the line at 9.5 is completely disrespectful.
You're going to see a lot of money on Ohio State.
I actually think this is a little cheap. I think this should be closer to 10.
Guys who played football, we played football. They did not profile like a 10-win team. They profiled like 7-win type teams.
I can't wait to let 18 to 22-year-olds emotionally ruin me.
I made a call, to Vegas. I said, look, we actually need the favorite here.
Welcome everybody. Bear Bets College Football Playoff Quarterfinal Preview has arrived. As always, Geoff Schwartz Sammy P here to kick around the games with us, and we are joined by our good friend Will Hill. Kick around the College Football Playoff with us. And we may as well start right off the bat with the game that we're going to first see in the new year 2026. Oregon and Texas Tech is the most compelling, the closest perceived game of the bunch here. The Ducks are on a 2-point favorite or so. And Geoff, I'm just going to give you our resident Duck Lab, and I'm just going to give it to you to kick us off here.
Well, happy almost New Year. Looking forward to starting this new year off with a win for the Ducks. Look, this game's gonna be great, right? Like this game's gonna be one where games get won in the trenches, right? Texas Tech's defense is unbelievable. Their two defensive ends are fabulous. Their linebackers are great. And look, winning a game is not often about who's the most talented everywhere else, but Oregon has the advantage at a lot of other positions. Their offensive line's great, and Texas Tech's defense, for as good as it's been, has not seen an offense like Oregon. I know Tech fans are going to scream at me, Utah.
Ugh.
It's not the same thing.
Utah can't throw the ball.
Correct. Where Oregon has seen more defenses this year that are similar to Texas Tech versus the other way around. So, look, we'll talk a lot about this more in a little bit, but I do feel very comfortable with Oregon in this game. Worth noting that Dan Lanning has only lost his 7 games when teams score 30-plus points on the Ducks. Is that this Texas Tech offense against Oregon's defense? Not quite sure about that, Sammy. So it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I do like the way Oregon is playing. And one last thing about this too, because of the experience Oregon has last year playing in this exact moment, right on January 1st, they have built their entire season to start on January 1st. That's what they've done. They've talked about it. They preached it, and everything they've done is to get to this point in a different place than they were last season. And so whether you believe in that or not, I do, because I know that program well, and they have built themselves to play in this game on January 1st.
Well, we'd like to see Dan Lanning win a game like this, though, right? It's nice to be in it. You got to win it, though, and I think a lot of Duck people are hoping for that, and naturally, Bear, our guy Geoff, is decked out like it's going to be a big showing. Look, as a Tech ticket holder, I have 12-1. I was really excited when Indiana beat Ohio State, because then you move Ohio State to the other side of the bracket. But, Will, I'm terrified about Oregon's speed here. I also am not adding more to my position, although I do like the number that I got at 12-1 on the Red Raiders. If they can't catch Oregon and they can't tackle those guys in space, this is a problem, because Oregon has the speed on the outside, and that running game is dangerous. They got a really good offensive line. We have seen money, too, in Vegas, guys, on the Ducks. They laid 1.5, out to 2.5 now. And a lot of wise guys are betting Oregon in moneyline parlays. Oregon with Georgia, Oregon with Indiana, Oregon with whatever. Oregon's a very sharp side in the desert right now.
Yeah, I like Oregon, and it's something Geoff talked about. The experience, I think that matters. Texas Tech has not been here. They have not done that, and I think that matters, from a program perspective. And Geoff, you know this following Oregon. You look at their box scores, you just go game by game, the game log. It's misleading because Oregon all year was banged up at receiver. Oregon had 3 or 4 games where they played in some really nasty weather. So the yards per play, the points, all that stuff, I think they're undervalued because they're healthy. They're going to play in a good weather day. And I just think they have too much offense here for Texas Tech.
Geoff, how much do you think the second, or I shouldn't even say second half, the fourth quarter of that game last week against James Madison? We've heard a lot of the players, and Dan I even mention how they weren't happy with the way that game ended. Like that has to serve as a little bit of a motivational driving force for them this week to kind of get that ugly quarter out of their minds, right?
I think it does early in the week in practice, right? Like when you have that downtime between the time you start really prepping for Tech and you're trying to drill in practice and whatnot, it does focus. Look, there's two areas I think that are that were legit problems. One, they didn't tackle very well, right? Now, you're playing a Texas Tech offense that's going to be speedy, right? So making sure you tackle, especially those running backs in space, are going to be huge, right? So that's one area that I think you emphasize after a loss like that. And then, of course, the turnovers. Look, Texas Tech is going to bring pressure. Their defense is fabulous. I want to make that very clear. It's a fabulous defense. They're going to move. They're going to try to force Dante Moore into turnovers. Number one team in the country in turnovers, which coincides with their offense being number one in the country in field position, right? Those kind of, those go hand in hand. If you don't turn it over, their offense, I think, will struggle to score the ball in this game, but they do a great job of punching the ball out. Like, their defense is really good. So emphasizing those things after playing JMU, where you had the 2 turnovers and didn't tackle very well, are important notes heading into practice this week.
I don't know who the pace disruptor is in this game. I guess we'll find out when the ball gets kicked off. I will say, admittedly, I'm a little bit nervous about Tech's red zone offense. That has been an issue all season long. They have what we call spurtability to the 20, and then it gets stagnant sometimes inside the 20, inside the 10. If they don't convert, we don't want 3s as Tech bettors. We want 7s. And if they don't get those 7s, obviously they're not going to win.
I was looking at this game. You talk about the red zone issues for Tech. Under 24.5, I think, for Texas Tech is, in terms of their team total, is the thing I like the most in this game. I think the Oregon defense is going to make it very difficult for them to run the ball. The red zone struggles I think we've seen. Baron Morton, he's been hurt for 2. Yeah, Joey McGuire talked with us about that earlier in this year, about how he's just been hurt for the last couple of years, and I just don't think you can get healthy at this point after playing an entire season, even with the extended time off. I'd be surprised if Texas Tech hit more than hit 27 again. We've seen the red zone troubles. We see the Oregon defense obviously be very good at time. That's the one thing I like the most in this game, guys.
All right, welcome back to the show now. We go from my team, the Ducks, to Bears team Miami. The first game of the College World Playoff is Miami, Ohio State. This number's 9.5 right now. Total's 40.5. It's like a lower NFL total for this game. Bear, we'll start with you, the Miami alum, fresh off vacation. How are we feeling about your Hurricanes?
At least I was a little bit more professional than you and decided not to wear the Oregon hat and the Oregon jersey. I'm actually wearing the enemy colors to provide a little bit. Now, look, we really didn't get a chance to talk about the game in College Station. Unbelievable defensive effort, and I harken back to what we were talking about earlier in the year when it was Ohio State 1, Miami 2, and who was better, Ohio State or Miami? Like, that was a legitimate conversation. Like, who was the better team, Miami or Ohio State? And now we get to see it on the field. I think the line at 9.5 is completely disrespectful. I think it's a terrible line. I mean, I took Miami plus 8.5 at a look ahead line, thinking the game was going to come down the other way, not go against me, which is fine. I'll take him again, plus a 9.5. But I think that Miami defensive line is going to be a problem for Ohio State. We talked about how I thought it was going to be a problem for A&M, and it was. This is by far the second best opponent that Ohio State has faced all year. Indiana is the only other team in this stratosphere that Ohio State has faced in terms of defensive pressure, and we saw what happened in that game. Ohio State struggled, 10 points, red zone issues again. I think the Canes have a great chance to win the game. Do I think they're going to be able to move the ball up and down the field? Probably not. They're going to have to get more out of Carson Beck. They're going to have to get more out of their receivers. But I like the Canes a whole lot, plus the points here, Sammy.
You're looking at a spot where you're not going to get to 10 because wise guys will cram 10 on Miami. In fact, some of the sharpest guys that I've talked to have already taken positions. This number was 9.5 early last week and then started to get bet down. Issue is, as we get closer to kickoff, you're going to see a lot of money on Ohio State. You're going to see public bets, money line parlays, all involving Ohio State. So it's going to climb. Like at 8.5, 9, it's going to come up. But at 10, it's going to come back down. So this is a very good guessing point on where the number is going to land at kick. I would say 9.5. My total, Will, I'm 44. So this is, even at 41, like, it's tough to get over with these two defenses, but 41's not a lot of points, man. Good grief.
Yeah, especially with a fast track here where weather's not going to be a factor. But I'm with Bear. Keep your 9.5 points. I think Miami wins the game. I think that you look at Ohio State, they played two real playoff caliber opponents. They scored 14 points against Texas. They scored 10 points against Indiana. 24 points in 2 games. Now, Miami's probably going to have to create some turnovers, some short fields. I don't know, down to down, do they move the ball? That might be an issue, but I think Miami, their defensive line, and throw in the fact that, Ryan Day is going to be calling plays here. I don't know that that's talked about a lot. Brian Hartline, who usually calls the plays, leaving a coach, South Florida. You got a new play caller, and his debut here is going to be against this Miami defense. I like Miami here. I think they're live to win the game, and I think they do win the game.
Jump in here quickly, Jeff, before get to just echo on that. I don't think that's a bad thing for Ohio State. I think that's a good thing that Ryan Day, he's experienced in calling these plays. The one big difference that we have from last year when he and Chip Kelly were there, as opposed to now, Julian Sain is not a mobile quarterback. He is not a run guy. We saw a lot of instances last year, Jeff, in the playoff where it was Will Howard on a scramble. It was Will Howard on a bootleg. It was Will Howard on a designed run, creating big plays with his legs. They don't have that option this year, so it'll be interesting to see how Ryan Day and that Ohio State offense can make up for that element of the offense, which is a really big part of what they wanted to do last year.
I thought last year was a perfect blend of Chip Kelly's run game and formations, and then you added in the Ryan Day passing game, which I feel like he took over in the postseason. Now you don't have that Chip Kelly run game. The new Northwestern offensive coordinator, by the way, congrats to Chip on getting another OC job. But the idea, like, you have that, so you have the passing game, but the offensive line is not as good this season, right? So look, I have a couple of group chats. We have ours, right? I call this like the nerdy one, right? Because Sammy's in this one. Then I have one with like football guys, right? Like football guys, right? Like just like
guys
football
who played football.
Film,
we played
right?
football.
And
what was
correct.
Jeff? I mean, Will you?
I'm sorry, guys.
Will you and Sammy? We're not allowed in that chat.
And I said to the chat, hey, I think Miami keeps the game close. And to Will's point, I think Miami can win this game. They shot me down immediately. Like the football guys are like all in on Ohio State. I think it's about their defense and forcing Carson Beck into mistakes. That's where the football people feel like they're in this game. But my counter is that is Ohio State going to score? Like I don't think the Indiana game, they had 2 drives end with no points at the end of long drives. Like that's probably not going to happen in this game. But I like Miami's defense against Ohio State's offensive line in this game, right? Like I like that matchup on certain guys, certain pieces. So it was just interesting that my football group thinks Ohio State's going to win this game pretty big. I don't. I'm with you guys on this one. Maybe too much group think here, but I think Miami has the goods. And look, last year we saw teams that had to bye start a little bit slow. They weren't as crisp early on. Miami did play a game. They won on the road at A&M, like an actual big boy win on the road. It wasn't pretty, but they have that in their back pocket of having won that game. So I think this game is really close. Let's talk some Rose Bowl now, the granddaddy of all. This one might be a little bit different. A little rain in the forecast for Southern California. Might miss that beautiful sunset over the hills there, Bear. Kind of disappointing, but nonetheless, we have a great game here. I would have told you 2 years ago, group, that Indiana is a touchdown favorite over Alabama in a Rose Bowl, Will. What would you have called me?
I probably wouldn't even know how to react to that. And I believe this is the first time these two teams have ever met, which it will be a fun little uniform battle there. I know people are going to look at Bama and say, wow, when's the last time? How many times do I get Bama plus a touchdown? And I believe Tim Tebow, 2008, was the opponent last time that was the case. That being said, I know Indiana, unfamiliar role as a favorite. Bama, unfamiliar role as a dog. I actually think this is a little cheap. I think this should be closer to 10. Bama has not played good football for a very long time. Very one-dimensional on offense. Indiana, it's hard to say the number one team is underrated, but when you win at Oregon and you beat Ohio State and neither of those games are in your building, man, that's pretty impressive stuff. I think Indiana wins the game. And Bear, something you talk about a lot, something to keep in mind this time of the year with standalone games, marquee matchups, cheap money lines on the favorite. I know a lot of the audience probably isn't cutting in line to bet minus 230, minus 240, but when you get a touchdown favorite that's like minus 220, minus 230 on the money line, there's so much public action on the underdog, and they like to bet the money line. They like to bet a little to win a lot. You get some real discounts on the favorite. So I think that Indiana money line is pretty cheap, and I actually think Indiana wins the game here.
The one area in this game that would worry me for Indiana would be going against that Alabama secondary, because those guys have made big plays all year in terms of interception. We saw the game completely flip on the pick six last week that Mateer threw that kind of just totally gave Bama all the momentum, and it was never close after that. I'm staying away from the side in this game either way. Would it surprise me if Bama won? No, it wouldn't. Would it surprise me if Indiana blew them out? No, it wouldn't. I looked at two things in the kind of the derivative type markets. Indiana to record the first sack in the game at minus 140. We've seen Ty Simpson be under a lot of pressure. They're primarily a pass first offense. You would expect him to be dropping back a lot. Good chance Indiana, based on the game flow, the way it will go. Indiana can run the ball a little bit more. Alabama more of a passing team. Indiana minus 140 to record the first sack of the game. And then I did take a little bit look at Daniel Hill, the Alabama running back, to score an anytime touchdown of plus 255. He's been used more and more later in the year, the young sophomore, as they've been looking just to get enough from the running game. He did some things against Oklahoma that maybe suggest he could provide them just enough of a burst if they get near their goal line. So the two things that I looked at in this game were Indiana record the first sack, Daniel Hill anytime touchdown.
We talked about this last week, Jeff, you and I. Bear was sailing on a cruise somewhere.
I was. And look at my nice peeling forehead. It's proof of that. Yeah, I forgot the hat the first day when we were in San Juan. I forgot the hat, and it was a beautiful day.
Some prayers, man.
Walked up to the fort there, Fort Cristobal, by the way. If that was open. Yeah, how about that?
Well, I can tell you what you missed. Our social team did a great job of cutting clips where Jeff and I were saying that Indiana is better than Alabama, and I believe I was called a Midwest mouth breather at least 6 times on Instagram. So there's that. I laid 6.5. My number's 9 here, and I also think this is not a bad idea. I expect a lot of these favorites to win. Now, the books in Vegas will tell you we need one of these favorites to go down. Sounds like this show thinks it might be Ohio State. So how about an Indiana-Georgia money line parlay, even money, if you shop around and do it right?
Look, despite Alabama fans yelling in the comment section to me and you, Sammy, the Alabama pass rush is not good. Hasn't been good all season. Yes, they do turn their pressures into sacks at a high rate, but against Indiana's team, they throw the ball exceptionally fast. They have a good offensive line, and Mendoza knows where to go with the ball. And that pass rush, which ranks 131st in the country on PFF, the pressure rate's in the hundreds as well, just raw pressure rate, to me, is not going to slow Indiana's offense down. On the flip side, when you're one-dimensional against Indiana's defense, there's no chance. They can't run the football. Now, Indiana's injury up front to their defensive tackle worries me a little bit, but can Bama take advantage of that? And the one thing I'll say, the one not negative about Indiana, they've won every high-leverage situation this season. Every one of them, right? They won at Oregon, high leverage. They won Ohio State. They beat Iowa and Penn State. They won all those situations. I think they do that because they're a really good team, and they're certainly deserving of being the favorite and the number 1 seed. But what happens, guys, if the game doesn't go exactly that way at the end? That's it. Like, I think other than that, Indiana rolls, and I think they cover this game.
Yeah, I want people to yell at you guys again, being that I missed it. So make sure you chime in on our YouTube page, on social media, in Instagram, wherever else you want to chime in and yell at Sammy and Jeff. I missed it also. Please let me be aware of how much you hate them for picking Indiana to roll over the Crimson Tide, guys. Well, one of the rematches we have this round in the college football playoff, Georgia against Ole Miss, will be down in the Sugar Bowl on January 1st. Ole Miss got the relatively easy win over Tulane in the first round. Georgia, for the second straight year, sitting around with the idle week, and will take on the team in the Sugar Bowl, coming off a first round win. Last year it was a loss to Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. This year they will hope to get their second win of the year over Ole Miss. That first game was really a tale of, I shouldn't even say a tale of two halves. It was the Ole Miss defense is not getting a stop on a Georgia offense that had over 500 yards. I guess my question to you would be, what, if anything, it can be different this time around to expect Ole Miss's defense to do better against Gunnar Stockton and that Georgia running game?
Well, I think the scary thing for Ole Miss is the only thing that's different in my eyes is Georgia's gotten better, especially defensively, and Ole Miss played a hell of a game. I watched just about every play of that game. That was mid-afternoon, middle of the season. Ole Miss played really well and still lost by 8. And I think Georgia's gotten better since. Kirby Smart with time to prepare. You don't have the play calling abilities. I mean, say what you want about Lane Kiffin. He's a pretty good play caller. You don't have that to go toe-to-toe here with Georgia. I think Georgia wins. I think they win pretty comfortably. I'd be not even surprised. I'd be almost shocked if Ole Miss finds a way to win this game. I really would be. Ole Miss team total, I think, is at 25. Are they really getting to? I mean, there's some dead numbers there at 26. I guess 27 is not a dead number. Are they going to get 4 touchdowns though against this Georgia defense with how improved they are with Kirby Smart, extra time to prepare? I would say no. So I like Georgia. I like Mississippi. The Ole Miss team total under. And Jeff, I think this is a pretty decisive Georgia victory.
It feels like of all the games that we've discussed and people are discussing, this one feels like the most foregone conclusion.
Mhm.
Everyone's just like,
Agreed.
yeah, Georgia's going to win. Pretty easy. Now, maybe it's not that easy, but I think all the things that Will said make a lot of sense to all of us, where Georgia's just better. Their defense, guys, has played so much better the back half of the season, which happens. Look, you have a lot of new guys, you got young guys, you got portal guys. It just takes time. And the one thing that Georgia has done this year, and Kirby talked about this when he came on with us, Bear, is like, you just can't kill them, man.
Yep.
Like, they continue to come back, and it's proven that the Tennessee comeback, the Ole Miss comeback, like, they have that in them. And I think, their offense sometimes can be a little bit inconsistent, right, at times. But defensively, they're starting to round into form, Sammy. So, look, I think Georgia wins and covers this game. I haven't bet on the game, but I feel like this is the game where it's like, oh, Georgia won by 17. That's kind of what we expected.
They completely shut off Alabama's water in the SEC title game. And now they've had all this extra time to rest, recover, get healthy, and prepare for a team that they already made adjustments to this season. We've already seen this game, and Ole Miss had a nice start, and then Kirby changed a couple of things on the chessboard, and that was it. So, I just mentioned earlier in the show the Indiana-Georgia moneyline parlay. I think that's a very good wager at even money. Other books have minus 105. Obviously, get the best price wherever you bet. Bear, I wish I could get to this under. 56 is so many points, and if you believe in Georgia, you probably believe in defense. The issue is Ole Miss just gave up over 400 yards at Tulane. Like, Georgia might score a bunch of touchdowns here. So that 56, while I do kind of lean under, I'm afraid of a game landing 60 or 63.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the injuries in this game, Jeff was alluding to getting healthier. Remember, Colby Young had a big catch in the first drive of the game. In that first game, broke his foot, I believe it was, in that game. He's now back. He's going to play. We're not going to see Drew Bobo, the center. Jordan Hall is still out. Gabe Harris is still out. But yeah, I feel the same way you do, Sammy. Like, I would love to be able to get to an under, but you just look at the way that first game went. Gunnar Stockton was a threat in the air and on the ground. Chambliss was a threat on the ground. The inability of any defense to get a stop until Georgia finally broke serve in the fourth quarter would worry me. If I was looking at, again, I have not bet this side. Let me ask you, does it concern you? And Jeff alluded to the point as well about it seems like this is the most foregone conclusion. Will said he really didn't see any reason why to expect anything to be different. I'll turn it back to you, Sammy, as a numbers guy, a guy who follows this and talks to the odds makers out there. Would this worry you as a Georgia bettor or a Georgia fan or a Georgia backer that this thing is just sat at 6.5 and hasn't touched 7? It seems to be welcoming all this Georgia money.
There's some 6s in Vegas. Our friend at the South Point, Chris Andrews, took another big bet the other day on the dog. So, yeah, you're seeing some resistance for sure. People are taking Ole Miss with the points. Anything north of 6 is getting bet. We'll see how far that comes back. But I think what we want to reiterate here is you're going to see a lot of rec players roll into their apps, log on to their phones, and do an Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia money line parlay.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening all over Vegas, and I've been told by multiple people, we need one of these favorites to fall, just one.
Bear, I would just jump in and say quickly, the one thing, if you're going to make the case for Ole Miss, I believe when they played in October, the line was 7. And Georgia's got a home field, Sammy, worth what, 3.5 points? So you're saying 10.5, basically adjusted towards a neutral field. I think when that line, just if you do the math of 7 and that's with home field, I think that maybe is why here that this Ole Miss line, hasn't moved.
Yeah, I think it's hard too, Jeff, to quantify the lack of coaching experience for Ole Miss, right? I mean, you've got some guys who have been around the block, but you don't have guys who have coached in these high pressurized games like Lane Kiffin has. So I think that's what the odds makers and the bookmakers are struggling with. How do you quantify Lane Kiffin not being there? How much is it worth? And the bettors are saying it's not worth that much, I guess.
That's a good way to put him. Look, we've seen Kirby this week, videos of him just like cussing out his team at practice, like
Love
they're
it.
getting after it at practice, right? Which is what you do to win a championship. One thing that I'm curious across the playoff this season, and I wonder if we have to think about the sport a little differently moving forward. We all have the numbers we like to use, the information we like, the analytics, but it does feel like this sport's moving towards the NFL model of just get to the postseason healthy and start playing your best ball in November. I mean, look, in the NFL, that's how we view a lot of these teams, right? Where just get to December healthy, play 4 good games in a row, and get in the postseason. Your DVOA doesn't matter, EPA doesn't matter. Just get to that point. And you have teams like Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, who have looked at this season as just getting to this point. The point is to get to here and then start peaking. So how much does what happened in week 5 and 6 and 7 really matter if we're getting to this point healthy and playing better football? That's something I'm struggling with a little bit, just looking at the numbers of some of these, games where it's like, does it really matter that this is what it was? And like, the first 8 weeks don't really matter as much anymore because you're just trying to get to this point healthy and playing your best ball the last 3 weeks of the season to get ready to play in the playoff. Now, Texas Tech hasn't done this before. Miami hasn't done this before. Bama, like DeBoer hasn't done this before with Bama. He did it with Washington, though. So I wonder if that matters in the playoffs this year. We really see a difference in the teams that have prepared to play all season on January 1st and the teams that are just here on January 1st.
Yeah, I think there's something to that, and I think there's something as well to having a game under your belt in the first in this. I talked to a couple of coaches this week who have been involved in the playoff this year and last year, and every single one of them, I basically said, would you rather be the team that had the idle week, or would you rather be the team that had that game under your belt? And to a man, they all said they would rather play. They would rather keep that schedule. They would rather have that first round game to kind of maintain like end of the season, idle week, play, and just kind of have, as opposed to be sitting around for months. So I know last year, all 4 of the teams that played in the first round wound up winning the quarterfinal games. Now, you can't really draw too much of a conclusion because 2 of those teams that had the bye last year, really weren't among the best teams. So this year, we'll be curious to see if that continues, where the teams that had kind of been sitting around for a month, maybe, I know, Will, you're very big on this. Is there an angle to be had maybe by taking at least, maybe not for the entire game, but maybe taking, say, Miami, Ole Miss, Alabama, and who's the other team that I'm forgetting the other matchup right now? Oregon.
Texas Tech.
Oregon. Is it worth taking those 4 teams that played last week on a first quarter bet, maybe thinking that they're going to start faster, maybe taking the four teams that didn't play, a team total under in the first quarter? I mean, there are different ways maybe to potentially attack this.
Yeah, and those first quarter bets, I know from our group chat, those are ones we kick around a lot. And by the way, I screwed it up earlier when I said it was 7 on a neutral field. Obviously, it goes from 7 to basically 3.5 on a neutral field. That's what the adjustment should have been. So this is, kind of a fair adjustment if you think, Georgia is upgraded. But yeah, first quarter, I know those props are good too, Bear. And I think especially a game like Miami, Ohio State, if you have available those markets of like, will there be a score in the first 5.5 minutes? A lot of these games, there's a feeling out process. You get a couple first downs, you punt, and you could end up with a scoreless first 6 or 7 minutes. So people, I know, like those instant gratification bets, Sammy. I think that's one, especially Miami, Ohio State. I could see that being a feeling out process where these teams, trade punts early.
I found a place that's giving us MVP odds, Bear. Are you curious in the Tony price to win MVP of the playoffs?
Ooh.
Nah.
No,
I'm not, because I think he's going to be more of a decoy this week. I think Matt Patricia and those guys, I mean, they're smart enough to realize that they're gonna make CJ Daniels or somebody else beat them. I mean, maybe if Tony gets a big punt return like he did last week, it'd be that guy. But I think it's going to be, if it's going to be some win on Miami, I think it will be someone other than Tony who wants to win it.
Triple digits, Sammy?
100 to 1 on Tony.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Might be worth some pizza money though.
Oh no, we're
100 to 1. That look, I bet Bijan Robinson. I bet Bijan Robinson last night 150 to 1 to be the offensive player of the year. So triple digits. I mean, just because the price is that ridiculous. But I think I would think it'd be hard to overlook what Mark Fletcher did in the first round and not see him as potentially an MVP.
Did you also add to your Drake May position there, Bear, on MVP minus 500
No,
last night? You add to
No.
that position?
no,
Um,
no, I did not.
Will I
He's not the MVP.
well, he's the favorite. Piggybacking on, you mentioned, the first quarter stuff. So in the Orange Bowl, Oregon plays, it's a 9 a.m. body clock game, and Texas Tech is off that long bye. I do wonder if that's a situation to go first quarter under there. Oregon had played one of those games this year at Northwestern. It was a slow start. Now, obviously, they're going multiple days in advance, but still, as much as you try to get that body clock going, it's a 9 a.m. body clock game for them against a team that hasn't played in over a month. I wonder if their first quarter under there would be something that's worth playing. I mean, look, I doubt we get 2 touchdowns in the first quarter in that game. I saw first half field goals over 1.5 is minus 135. That feels interesting to me as far as just, the Oregon kicking a field goal. They've done it all season. They've opted for those. Tech's not a good red zone team. I do wonder if that's, a way to play some of this. The first quarter total is 10.5. I mean, that feels high for this type of game.
Yeah, and if you want to take Texas Tech plus a half a point in the first quarter, minus $1.40, I mean, that's not a bad price either, just because it's same sort of thinking, like, how many possessions are you going to have in the first quarter? You might have like 2 or a third, and a third might not even finish. So 10.5, that's a key number because you basically need 2 touchdowns. You're not going to have time for a touchdown and 2 field goals.
Even though, Will, I would to jump in, we've seen Oregon before. They like to go for 2 quite often on that first touchdown game.
That's a great point.
Would
they do that in this game? They might. It's worth at least factoring that. So that's actually a very good point.
It's happened so many times in my life. I've taken a first quarter or first half under, and the Ducks take the kickback, and you're like, kill me. Like 99-yard return or whatever by some guy that's going to be in the NFL. If you can keep the returns out of the way, I generally agree. Offensively, I don't think we get over. But there's always, when you play Oregon, kick return, punt return, it's terrifying to have an under early in those games because there's so much speed.
Geoff, you like Sadiq plus 130 anytime touchdown scorer because he's a matchup problem.
Yeah, he is for everyone. I mean, the thing with touchdown scores, I bet him for Oregon games this year. I think I'm 0 for the season, and every time I do it, because they just spread the ball around. Like, there's just no telling who's getting the ball, which makes them really dangerous, right? Could be Sadiq, it could be DeCorian Moore is back, could be one of the 3 running backs
Ryan's back too. Yep.
Yeah, it could be one of the 3 running backs that they play. It could be Jamari Johnson, the first touchdown against JMU, which I don't think many people thought to give him the opportunity there. I think Oregon can throw the ball if they can block up Bailey and Height. Like, the Texas Tech secondary is vulnerable, and the reason why they're so good is they often have no time to throw because Bailey, those guys are incredible. They're incredible at what they win one-on-one. Or you can find a way to block those guys up. Arizona State is the closest passing game to Oregon because of Kenny Dillingham. They were able to find guys open down the field, and that's a kind of an eye I have to maybe Oregon's passing game being really important against Texas Tech, which again hasn't been tested in quite this way this season.
Geoff, if only you knew somebody who knew Dan Lanning, you could text him and say, "Hey, just what are you thinking here? What any ideas?"
I don't use my text messages to Lanning for that exactly, but I can see maybe he knows from Will.
Hey, Will, is a going away present to your old buddy Geoff here? Who are we going to target early in that drive? We going to throw the ball a lot.
How much does that matter that both their coordinators or head coaches somewhere else? I feel
0.
like with the dead part of the calendar right now,
0. I think 0 at this point. Dead part of the calendar, I think it's 0. And you guys know now they hire these chiefs of staffs, these GMs that are doing. They're the ones doing the dirty work in the portal scouting and looking at who's going to potentially going in, who potentially could be available. I don't think it matters at all for Tosh and for Stein.
I agree with you there. They both have hired their general managers. Any last thoughts on playoff games? We'll get to bowl.
Yeah, totally. No, I got a lot more.
Go, Bear. Go. Sorry, Bear. Go. Go. What do we got?
I going back to the Sugar Bowl. I know we talked about how much that first game matters. Will tendencies break? Will things be different? If you are of the school of thought that things may not be different and you want to take a look, Lawson Lucky had a monster game against Ole Miss in that first game. He had 3 touchdowns. He's plus 390 for an anytime touchdown this game. The other tight end, Oscar Delp, is plus 425 to score an anytime touchdown. Trinidad Chambliss, who had a couple of rushing touchdowns in that first game, he's plus 130 to score an anytime touchdown. So, like, If you're looking maybe to see some parallels from game one to game two, I think those are some angles here. And I really didn't get a chance to empty the chamber on the Cotton Bowl. And I alluded to something earlier in the episode about how this is like the closest, the second best team Ohio State has faced all year. Like Indiana is the only other team in the stratosphere that Ohio State's faced. Like if you look at, I like breaking things down and drilling down data and numbers to like the best possible subset I can. So I just take it Power 4 teams versus Power 4 teams. Like on your schedule, who are the Power 4 teams you played? How did they do against the other Power 4 teams? I don't care about FCS or the other Group of 5 schedule filler that you did. If you look at defensive EPA per game amongst the teams Ohio State played this year, there's 68 Power 4 teams. These are the defensive ranks of Ohio State's opponents. Indiana is second. Miami is third. Washington is 17th. Michigan 29, Texas 33, Wisconsin 36, Penn State 42, Minnesota 50, Illinois 53, UCLA 65, Purdue 66, Rutgers 68. So they faced 3 of the 4 worst defenses in the Power 4 this year. If you look at what they did against Indiana, 10 points, 58 rush yards, 322 total yards. Washington, a game earlier in the year, a fringe ranked team, 24 points, 357 total yards. Texas, 14 points, 77 rush yards, 203 total yards. Offensively, they did not do a whole lot. And now you're facing a Miami team that's battle tested. You look at, and if you want to take the people who are like, oh, Miami is struggling, look at their numbers, they've been so bad. If you look at who they've played, Ohio State's 4th in defensive EPA in terms of that subset. Miami's 3rd. Miami has faced Notre Dame, who's 5th, Pitt, who's 10th, Louisville, who's 11th, SMU, who's 13th, and Texas A&M was 15th. Miami has faced a hell of a tougher schedule in terms of defensive face than Ohio State has. Like, if you look at, again, PFF, Pro Football Focus, that they put out these things about roster comparisons, and they did it for Miami and A&M, and it showed that Miami had the better roster than A&M. You look at the roster comparison for Miami and Ohio State. Running backs, they're tied for 10th, according to PFF. Pass catchers, Ohio State 2nd, Miami 5th. Offensive line, Ohio State 9th, Miami 2nd. Defensive line, Ohio State 4th, Miami 2nd. Linebackers, a big advantage. Ohio State, massive advantage there. Secondary, Ohio State 11th, Miami 5th. Like, if you, this is where I'm curious, like your football geek out stats, the group checks there, like Jeff, like, according to some of the scouting services here and the statistical service with PFF, like Miami's roster is like, if not right there with Ohio State, better in a lot of units. So that's why I don't understand why people think this game is going to be a complete blowout. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I thought I was an Oregon homer. Jeez, buddy. This is heavy hurricanes right now. Wow. Holy moly.
I don't want to reduce it to like complete dummy level right here, but we talked about like Notre Dame during the year and like what did Notre Dame really accomplish? Who they beat? In a little bit of a way, is Ohio State just kind of Notre Dame a little bit on steroids? Ohio State, Notre Dame both lost to the best teams that they played. Ohio State lost to Indiana. Notre Dame lost to Miami. Their best win was against a 3-loss team at home at USC and Texas early in the year. And outside of that, like the other, they both had like a fringy type win. Michigan for Ohio, or Washington for Ohio State. Pitt it was a fringy ranked team for Notre Dame, and the rest was just a whole lot of filler. So like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too optimistic. Maybe I have a little bit. Look, Ohio State's really good. Defensively, they're really good. The receivers are awesome, but I just don't see this as the mismatch that a lot of people do.
Look, I think that all those things are true about this matchup. But I will say that the Indiana game, guys, if they score in one of those 2 possessions where they went 75 yards and scored no points, we're not even talking about this, right? Ohio State's the 1 seed, and Indiana's playing Miami this weekend, right? So, like, I think that if they just finish those drives or finish one of those two drives, this is not even a discussion. And so that's what I remember with Ohio State. Like they've shown the potential to be a little bit better. And Ryan Day taking over play calling, that in my mind that signals Jeremiah Smith and Tater getting the ball a ton, right? We saw last year when he basically took a little more command of the team. We saw the Tennessee game, the Rose Bowl moving forward. So if they get a little bit more from that offense, a passing offense, I think we feel better about where Ohio State's going to be. But they haven't done it quite yet. And to your point, even the Texas team, 14 points. Now, Julian Saint's first game, I get it, but 14 points, right? Indiana, 10 points. Like it's been a pattern when they've faced the quote unquote better teams. The Washington game you mentioned, that was at Washington, still sort of same thing. They had a 4th and 1 that got stuffed down the goal line there. So, so they've had some of those problems this season. And the team is not as good as last season. I think the defense is maybe better and more talented, even though they're not as experienced. Like the group last year was super old on defense. But Jones and Reese, dude, I mean, those guys, Downs and Reese might be the two best players on the field of any two right now. Bain's obviously up there as well. But like this is it's going to be a great match because it's just a talented team versus talented team. Bear, I want to ask you this question here. How much did winning that game last week and nothing about like game management or like the way that Mario coaches played a factor in that win? Now, you can argue that you should go down at the very end there, but I get why he scored. But this wasn't like a Mario mismanaged game they won or mismanaged game they lost. It just was a sort of like, it was back and forth. I get it, but nothing on the coaching staff about this game, which I think was important for Miami.
It totally was. And I think the macro viewpoint from from the Miami camp is that it's an arrow up season now. It's an arrow up for the program. You won a playoff game. You got to the playoff. You're in the quarterfinal playing the defending national champion. I don't want to say it's a free roll because they certainly don't view it as a free roll, and I don't view it as a free roll. I think they expected to be here. I think they expected to win the ACC and be in this round from the start of the year. But I think it shows that the roster building and the program and the direction of the program and everything that they're kind of viewing in bringing Miami back to the level that they were at when Mario was a player there. I think it shows it's working. And I think the fact that they were able to win a game like that where people were questioning the Tony not going down and scoring the touchdown. But I think earlier in the year, I remember Mario talking about the end of the Notre Dame game. Like, why are you playing for a long field goal in that game? And Mario brought up at the press conference about how with no timeouts against our front, we did not think Notre Dame was going to be able to go the length of the field and score to tie or win the game. And they didn't. Now the defense played great, and they made an interception in the end zone, which was fantastic. If it goes the other way, maybe we're having a different conversation. But I will say this for people who, look, I'm not in this necessarily school of thought, but people who were at that game say the wind was a major factor for both sides, and maybe that had an impact on both Marcel Reed and Carson Beck and their ability to complete long passes. So we'll see. Maybe indoor, no wind, no rain, no nothing, perfect conditions. Maybe we'll see both Julian Sayin and Carson Beck have a lot more success through the air. Then like you said, like if it's a Ryan Day passing type game, I do wonder. Have you graded have you looked at their offensive line in depth, Geoff? How do they stack up?
It's just not as good as it's been in the past. The right side is a little bit of a concern. And again, they haven't played a ton of teams that can rush the passer like Miami can. I mean, the Indiana thing is so fascinating to me because like they're individually as players, Indiana doesn't have a ton of like top guys on their team. Like if you were to stack up just like individual raw NFL talent, they have their one quarterback, but that's mostly because I think the draft is just not chocolate. They have a couple offensive linemen, right? A couple running backs, wide receivers. And defensively, their linebackers are great. Their D linemen are good, but they're not like Reuben Bain, like they don't have those type of guys on their team, and they just play really well together. And Ohio State had trouble with that group. I mean, most teams this year have had trouble with Indiana. So this is going to be a step up, but this is the playoffs, right? It's a step up for everyone. I mean, Oregon's playing two defensive ends I haven't seen all season. This is a step up, and so you have to put guys in place to try to have success. I do wonder how Ohio State does that. I think a lot of teams in this round would love to stay at a 3rd and long, not a place they want to be. But look, this podcast needs Miami to win. We need Oregon to win. We need to have an Oregon-Miami matchup in the championship game. I don't know what Fox is going to do for that. Obviously, not a Fox product is the championship game, but
we'll
I know Bear and I will be in Miami for that game. The schedule is going to be cleared. It'd be great if you guys could come as well. But let's win this weekend. Let's get a W on New Year's Eve. Bear, are you going to watch the game? Like, what's this? New Year's Eve? Like, this is a big night.
I'll be home. I decided not to go. We just getting back from.
Go where?
I decided not to go to Dallas for the game.
Oh, go to Dallas. You were going to go to Dallas. Oh, you were going to go.
I just decided not to go. I'd rather watch.
Did Geoff just ask you if you were going to watch the game? Is that the question I just heard?
No. So how's he going to watch the game?
Oh, okay.
Like, is it going to be a quiet by yourself?
No. My wife will be in the TV room. You enjoying this conversation, guys?
We know this from knowing Bear. As soon as Ohio State, if they get the ball first and they cross the 50, Bear will start with, "Oh, it was a good season. This game is over." Bear is not exactly as great as a guy Bear is. Bear's not exactly what we call a foxhole guy, but we'll try to. I got Miami futures too. We'll try to stay positive. We'll try to keep positive. We'll try to keep Bear positive throughout this game, which might be tough.
Texas Tech. I don't know what this "we need Oregon" crap is. I need Texas Tech.
For the general morale of the pod
of the pod, we could. Well, obviously, I'd be happy if Oregon loses. So that'd be morale for one of us.
Bear bets live from the national championship. What about that?
I'm in for that. All right, Sammy. I know that you have bowl games that you would like to wager on that are not a college football playoff. Which of the few have you eyed so far?
Iowa getting 5.5. This has been bet down, and then it was bet back up a little bit. Some guys came in, took Iowa +6, got down to 4 a couple days ago, and now we're back to 5.5. I like betting on consistency, and I like betting on teams that I know what I'm going to get, if that makes any sense. And that's Iowa, right? Nobody's leaving. Nobody's entering the portal. Nobody's going to the NFL draft for the most part. You're going to get what you get with Iowa, and that's a team that protects the football, power run, power D-line. They don't turn it over. I'm catching points, and I get to go against the Pavia Circus. Yeah, I'm in. Give me the points.
Will, any bowl games you like?
I like Michigan 7. I don't know if there's 7.5 still out there. I think those hooks have been gobbled up, but they haven't gotten really, ravaged by the portal. I think when the Sharon Moore news came out, that line it was one-way traffic. Everyone betting Texas, thinking it's going to be a disaster. It really hasn't played out that way. It seems like they're going to have a pretty good roster, Michigan, for this game, and
lose a couple. They're going to lose a couple of defensive guys.
Yeah,
and I think your running backs are still a little beat up as well.
Yeah, but Whittingham being there sounds like he's in the mix of the program. You got an adult in the room. I just think 7.5 is a lot. And who knows, Texas? Are they super motivated? They probably feel like
they are
2 years in a row. You think so? Okay, 2 years in a row being in the semifinal that would concern me. But I think the 7.5 is still a lot.
In talking to the guys at Texas that I know, I think they are all in for next year. I think they're going to be quite active in the portal. I would expect to see a couple of now with Wisner saying he's going to be, or Wisner should say he's going to be gone. I think they'll be very active in the portal. There have been some names out there already associated with them, but I think they are viewing this game as the first game of the 2026 season. So I would expect a very motivated, focused Texas game here. Remember last year too, though, to your point, Will, Michigan did wind up upsetting Alabama in that ball game last year. So they clearly cared last year, and now it's maybe an opportunity for Underwood to play and kind of show the new regime what he can do. But I'm on opposite sides here of you, my man. I
don't like that.
Yeah, I like Texas -7.
I don't like that. My closing statement would be, if you read some of the stories about Moore and what was going on in that building, in that program, man, any sort of change can only be viewed as a positive. I think that's part of my handicap as well.
That should be a major, and not to turn this back into what we were talking about with Bruce a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, it always felt like Sharon Moore was kind of that bridge to whomever and whatever was going to be next. And you could not have made a better, higher transition to kind of, okay, let's just forget about the garbage off the field and kind of steady the ship and just erase the fiasco of the off the field and the cheating and the scandals and everything that's going on with the Harbaugh Moore era, and now you got Kyle Whittingham. So
Bear, I cannot believe Michigan looked into Kyle Whittingham. Like this
Yeah.
is like if you would have told Michigan at the end of the season they could hire Kyle Whittingham, they would have fired Sharon Moore immediately to hire him. And my only thought on this is like from the Utah perspective is like I am a big non-believer in coach in waiting. I don't
I hate it.
I think it doesn't work very often. And there are certain times when like Chip Kelly came to Oregon and very clearly he was going to be the next coach. They sort of forced Bellotti out, but it wasn't like he waited 17 years for that. Like Morgan Scalley's been there forever. What if Morgan Scalley was that good of a future coach? Someone else would have called and made him a $8 million offer to be a head coach. Like I'm just sorry.
It was just like Muschamp.
And people look, Utah people think he's going to be a great coach, but most of them don't think they should have let Kyle Whittingham walk to have Morgan Scalley be their coach. If Whittingham wanted to keep coaching, which he did clearly, and yes, he's been hinting at retirement. They've been waiting to pass on to Morgan Scalley. Those are all true. But if your Hall of Fame coach says, I want to coach one more season, you let him coach one more season. He's had a healthy quarterback in 3 of the last 5 years, and they've won 10 games in those 3 seasons. I did see a funny tweet that said Bryce Underwood is now questionable for the first game of the season, which I thought was really good. But what a win for them, man. I can't believe they backed into Kyle Whittingham.
Will he bring Cam Rising with him to Michigan?
Grad assistant.
Grad assistant. Sammy, any more bowl games you like? I think you like Wake Forest as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm just jumping in with our buddy Rack Jack. We'll talk about it more in Best Bets. But
what's Rack Jack got? Rack Jack on Wake?
Yeah, he took Wake.
Okay, I'll ride that. I'll gladly hop on that.
I can tell you what, man. That college basketball record it wins a lot of games. I don't know how he does it, but he is printing money in college basketball, which is my least favorite sport in the world to watch. I can't stand that sport. I have such a hatred for college basketball, but I pay attention enough to win wagers,
which is all that really matters. And he play FCS championship game. Montana State, Illinois State, up to 10.5. Now, I got a hard time seeing Montana State lose this game. I mean, Villanova's been Cinderella, won a couple of games outright, but it feels like the Bobcats' chance here to get that national title. No, like I'd be shocked if they lost.
I took them at -8.5. So it's a good resume booster for Oregon. So I'm in on Montana State. I did see the video that they do at their home games where they sing a song that says a curse word like to Montana. I won't repeat it because it's a family program here, but it made me want like Montana State a little bit more. And I don't know if Will's seen that. Will's laughing at this. Like they have a chant along a song, and it gave me very excited to bet on Montana State here.
Yeah, I did not see it. I like watching these FCS games once everything kind of settles down. I don't follow it all year, so it's fun sometimes. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, where you could just watch a game. You don't have to have a take. You don't have money on it. You just sit back and kind of watch it as a fan. But I know you guys follow this a little more, Sammy or Jeff or whoever. What would be the equivalent of it's Illinois State, right? They're playing. What would be the equivalent of the NCAA tournament of Illinois State?
Did I say Villanova? I'm sorry.
No. You still Illinois
Somebody
State.
made the point like it'd be like a 12 or a 13 seed winning the NCAA tournament in college basketball. Is this that much of an upset if Illinois State wins it all? I said, it's not going to follow it from September.
You know what a great analogy might be? And I just thought about this. It would be maybe Arizona. I know Arizona was only a 4 seed when they won in '97. But for Illinois State to beat
the path,
you beat the Bison on their home field in the first round, and then you beat Montana State in the championship game, like along with everybody else that they beat en route to the national championship. It would probably be that.
Let's keep it local. It's very similar to a title game we saw about 6 years ago, Michigan against Loyola. That's sort of a great comparison, if I say so myself, even from the state of Illinois, Loyola, the basketball team, Illinois State the football team. That's what this would be.
I was at that game. That Loyola hung in there for a half too. I was at the game, I can't remember. Didn't they hang in for a half, and then Michigan just absolutely like scored like the final 20 points of the game or something like that?
Yeah, it got ugly in a hurry.
But
has Sammy partied at Illinois State campus before?
Yes, only once though. Nobody partied at Illinois State. Illinois State went to Illinois to party.
Normal in a normal Illinois, right?
Blow no. Bloomington normal. Yes, sir.
Brock Speck and the Redbirds looking to pull the big upset. So don't think it's going to happen. Will, always a pleasure to have you on and chat and kick this around. Appreciate you making time for us, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
All right, back for our best bets. Obviously, a little smaller menu here, but we found some bets that we're going to be wagering on. Bear, let's start with you. Your nice tan head from your trip, your sunburned head, but you still got some wagers for us, though.
I do. I mean, I think it's no surprise of anyone. I took Miami plus the 9.5 here. I think they have a chance to win. I think there is an opportunity for a lot of these underdogs or a lot of these teams that played last week to win outright. Like I think that the number is way too high. I cannot see Miami getting blown out. Maybe Ohio State does win the game. Will it be difficult for Miami to get to 14 points? Probably against that Ohio State defense. Yes, but I think it's going to be very hard for Ohio State to score 21, 22, 23, 24 points as well against a really good Miami defense. So I took the Canes plus the 9.5. If you're looking for a little derivative in there, maybe take Miami at plus money to record the first sack in the game, because I think Ohio State will be more pass heavy in this game. So you can get maybe Miami taking advantage of that offensive line. I like the Oregon Ducks minus the 2, like Jeff and I was going to say like Sammy, but not like Sammy, but like Jeff. I do think Oregon will win the game. Texas Tech team total under 24.5 might be another way to potentially look at that, but I do think the Ducks get by. I like Texas minus the 7. I think they're viewing this as the first game of the 2020-26 season. I don't know what we're going to get out of Michigan here. I think the last couple of weeks have maybe taken a little bit out of them emotionally. And then I like Trinidad Chambliss for anytime touchdown plus 130 against Georgia. I think his ability to get out and run could potentially put points on the board for Ole Miss by the touchdown. So Chambliss plus 130 anytime touchdown.
That phone ringing, that's not the red phone, but it's definitely a phone. Which it's not ringing, but there's nothing I can do. I'll go quick then and mute myself. Indiana minus 7, Iowa plus 5.5, Wake plus 3, and my favorite bet of all, when I get back home on Friday and step on the scale, it will break, Jeff. That's my bet.
Look, I like Indiana to cover this game. We've talked about it. I kind of like that Sammy's against us, Bear, with Oregon, because it's good to have. We need a little yin and yang in the podcast, right? Like we can't have everyone in Oregon in this game. So I'm glad Sammy has his Texas Tech future there. Look, I like some props. It's not up. I don't know if they put this up at all. I think Carson Beck throws an interception. I don't know if that's going to be up. If that prop is available, it's not available. It's recording now.
Okay.
I think Dante Moore ends up going over his passing number. That has to settle somewhere right now. There's not even a two-way market for that quite yet.
Yeah.
So I'm eyeing those right now. But if I get that Beck interception prop, I'm in on that. I just don't know where I can find it right now.
Do we think the Oregon Texas Tech winner beats Indiana?
Indiana's hard to squash, man. I would be hesitant to pick against Indiana, even if they're playing my team. They're just, the way they play, they're so hard to kill, man. You have to play a near perfect game against them to win. I think Indiana beats Texas Tech. I feel good about that. I think Oregon, I'm a little biased here, would play that game a little bit closer than Tech would.
You think that, do you? Huh?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I feel good if we get by this weekend.
Yeah, because you can look at some of those look ahead numbers are out there right now.
I think Indiana's favored by 3.5 against Oregon. Correct? I think that's the number I saw. So
they beat them. They beat them already at Oregon. So there's no way they lose to a neutral field, right?
I just have to pick what jersey I'm going to wear when I drive down to Atlanta for the Peach Bowl.
There we go. I like that. Well, that's all we got for you now. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you make some money on some of these wagers. Thanks to Will for joining us early in the show. Thanks, Sammy. Don't break the scale too much. I'm going to be right there with you after my cruise. Jeff, go pick out what jersey you're going to wear. Appreciate you on FS1, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you podcast. Remember, less you bet, or you lose when you win.